The human fleet moved into position among the debris fields surrounding the damaged Valtru station. Broken pieces of metal, disabled weapons platforms, and destroyed docking bays floated in space like a graveyard. Admiral Deho had positioned his ships carefully, using the larger pieces of debris as cover, while maintaining clear firing lanes for their weapons. On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, the crew worked quietly at their stations. Everyone knew what was coming. The tactical display showed the approaching Valtru fleet, still 3 hours away but closing fast. 230 enemy ships against 37 human vessels. The odds were bad, but humanity had faced worse. Commander Jisoo walked between stations checking readiness. All ships report weapons charged and shields at maximum. Ghost Squadron is ready for deployment. Engineering reports all systems operating normally. Good, Deho replied. Captain Mirai, I want your fighters hidden behind that large piece of station hull. When the Valtru arrive, they'll focus on our main ships first. That's when your squadron strikes their flanks. Understood, Admiral. Mirai's voice came through the communication system. We'll make them regret coming here. Lieutenant Bora looked up from her sensors. Sir, I'm picking up something strange. The Valtru fleet is slowing down. They're still 2 hours out, but they've reduced speed significantly. They're being cautious, Jisoo said. They probably detected the debris field and realized it's a trap. Deho nodded. Smart. Their commander knows rushing into this situation would be suicide. What's our intelligence on their fleet composition? Bora brought up detailed scans on the main screen. 3 dreadnoughts leading the formation. The center one is significantly larger than the others. I'm reading unusual power signatures from it. That must be the flagship. Find out everything you can about that ship, Deho ordered. I want to know its capabilities, weaknesses, everything. While Bora worked, Engineer Hyunwoo called from the engineering deck. Admiral, I've finished preparing our special weapon. The quantum disruptor mines are ready for deployment. I've programmed them to phase in and out of normal space randomly.
The Valtru won't be able to predict where they'll appear. Excellent work, Hyunwoo.
Deploy them throughout the debris field. Make sure they're spread out enough to cover a wide area. Small deployment ships left the human fleet, moving silently through the debris. They placed hundreds of mines, each one programmed to jump between normal space and quantum space unpredictably. When the battle started, these mines would appear inside enemy shield ranges, striking at the vulnerable hulls of Valtru ships. An hour passed, then another. The tension on every human ship grew as the enemy fleet approached. Finally, the Valtru ships arrived at the edge of the debris field and stopped. They formed into a defensive formation, clearly wary of the situation. On the Valtru flagship Retribution's hand, Fleet Marshal Zenith studied the tactical displays with cold eyes. He was an experienced commander who had fought many battles. This situation troubled him. The debris field was perfect for ambush tactics. The humans could be anywhere in there. Analysis, Zenith ordered. His tactical officer spoke nervously. Sir, our sensors detect approximately 37 human ships hiding within the debris. They're using the wreckage to mask their exact positions. If we enter the field, we'll be fighting at close range where their superior maneuverability will be an advantage. Then we won't enter the field, Zenith decided. We'll bombard it from range. Destroy everything in there, debris and human ships alike. Sir, that will take time. The field is large and our targeting will be imprecise, so I don't care. I'd rather spend hours destroying that debris field than lose ships to a close combat ambush. Begin bombardment. The Valtru fleet opened fire. Energy beams and missiles streaked across space, slamming into the debris field. Pieces of the destroyed station shattered further. Some human ships took hits on their shields but held position. On the Eternal Dawn, alarms sounded as the shields absorbed impacts. Shields holding at 85%, an officer reported. Deho watched the enemy fleet on his screen. They were staying at range, trying to destroy the debris field through sheer firepower. It was a smart strategy, but it had a weakness. They're spread out to maximize their firing coverage. That formation has gaps. Lieutenant Bora, can you plot a course through their lines? Bora's fingers flew across her console. Yes, sir. There's a gap between their left flank and center formation. If we move fast, we could break through before they adjust. Perfect. All ships prepare for attack run. We're going through that gap and hitting them from behind their formation. The human fleet suddenly accelerated, bursting out of the debris field in a tight formation. The Valtru were caught off guard. Their ships tried to turn and track the fast-moving human vessels, but they were too slow. Fire! Deho commanded. Human weapons lit up the darkness. Plasma beams cut through the gap in the Valtru formation, striking ships that had their vulnerable sides exposed. 3 Valtru destroyers exploded immediately. 2 cruisers suffered critical damage and began falling behind the fleet. Go squadron now, Deho ordered. Captain Mireille led her fighters out of hiding. 24 small craft shot through space, targeting the Valtru support ships. Their missiles found engines, weapon systems, and shield generators. More enemy ships went dark or exploded. Fleet Marshal Zenith watched in fury as his carefully planned bombardment turned into chaos. These humans were too fast, too aggressive. All ships, new formation. Close the gaps. Focus fire on their flagship. The Valtru fleet tried to reorganize, but then Hyunwoo's quantum mines activated. Suddenly, explosives appeared inside the shield range of dozens of Valtru ships. The mines detonated, tearing holes in hulls. Ships listed to the side, venting atmosphere and debris. The Valtru formation collapsed into complete disorder. Press the attack, Jisoo shouted. Don't give them time to recover. The human fleet moved like a pack of wolves, striking at wounded ships and avoiding direct confrontation with the larger dreadnoughts. They were outnumbered, but fighting smarter. Every shot counted. Every maneuver was calculated for maximum effect. But then Fleet Marshal Zenith made his move. The massive flagship Retribution's hand activated a weapons system that hadn't been seen in centuries. Ancient technology from the time when the Valtru had fought humans before. A gravitational crusher, designed specifically to counter human ship designs from the old Earth Navy. Space itself seemed to twist. A massive gravity well formed around 3 human warships, pulling them together. The ship's engines screamed as they tried to escape. But the gravity was too strong. Metal groaned and crumpled. Shields failed. The 3 ships were crushed like paper in a fist. On the Eternal Dawn, everyone felt the shock. 3 ships lost in seconds. Nearly 2,000 crew members gone. That weapon, Jisoo said in horror. They kept it from the Earth War. They've been waiting 3,000 years to use it again. Deho stared at the tactical display. The Retribution's hand was charging its gravitational crusher for another shot. If it fired again, more ships would die. The human fleet's advantage was disappearing. Admiral, that flagship is targeting us next, Bora warned. The gravity weapon is locked onto the Eternal Dawn. Deho made a decision. All power to weapons. Charge the quantum torpedo. Sir, that will drop our shields to 0, an officer protested. We'll be completely vulnerable. Do it. We only get 1 shot at this. Throughout the ship, power systems redirected. Life support dropped to minimum. Lights dimmed, and all that energy flowed into a single weapon, the quantum torpedo. It was humanity's most powerful creation, a missile that could phase through normal space and detonate inside a target's shields. But preparing it took time. Time the Eternal Dawn didn't have. That Valtru flagship is almost ready to fire, Jisoo said urgently. So are we. Just a few more seconds. On the Retribution's hand, Fleet Marshal Zenith watched the human flagship growing brighter on his sensors as it charged its weapon. He smiled coldly. Too late. His gravitational crusher was ready first. Fire, Zenith ordered. But then something unexpected happened. A small human fighter shot across space at maximum speed, putting itself between the Eternal Dawn and the Retribution's hand. It was Sunho, the rookie pilot. Behind him, 3 other volunteer pilots did the same. What are they doing? An officer on the Eternal Dawn asked. They're buying us time, Mireille said quietly, understanding immediately. They're sacrificing themselves. The gravitational crusher fired. The 4 fighters were caught in its field and crushed instantly, but those few seconds of interference disrupted the weapons lock on the Eternal Dawn. Quantum torpedo ready. The weapons officer shouted, Fire! Deho commanded. The torpedo launched. It was invisible to normal sensors, phasing between realities as it crossed the distance between the 2 flagships. On the Retribution's hand, Fleet Marshal Zenith had just seconds to realize what was happening before the torpedo appeared inside his ship's shields and detonated. The explosion was massive. The quantum reaction tore through the dreadnought's hull, ripping it apart from the inside. The blast wave expanded outward, catching nearby Valtru ships and destroying them as well. Over 50 enemy vessels were caught in the cascading destruction. When the light faded, the Retribution's hand was gone. The medical bay of the Eternal Dawn was crowded with rescued prisoners. Dr. Yuna moved between them, checking their condition with her medical scanner. Most were weak from poor treatment and limited food. Some had injuries that hadn't been treated properly, but they were alive and they were safe now. The gray-skinned aliens were called Keleth. Yuna had learned this from speaking with them through her translator. They were a peaceful species whose homeworld had been conquered by the Valtru 2 years ago. The prisoners here were scholars and teachers, taken as hostages to prevent their people from rebelling. An elderly Keleth male named Vorath sat on one of the medical beds while Yuna examined his arm. He had a deep cut that was infected. As she cleaned and treated the wound, he watched her with curious eyes. "You are very kind for warriors," Vorath said quietly. "The Valtru told us humans were extinct. They said your species was violent and dangerous, that the galaxy was safer without you." Yuna smiled sadly as she wrapped a bandage around his arm. "Humans can be violent when we need to be, but we're also capable of kindness. We try to be both when the situation requires it." "The Valtru killed your whole planet?" "Yes, 3,000 years ago. 5 alien empires decided we were too dangerous to exist. They came to Earth and destroyed everything. My ancestors were among the few who escaped." Vorath was quiet for a moment, processing this. "And now you seek revenge?" "Yes, but you stopped your attack to save us. Prisoners you didn't know. Aliens from a species you never met before. Why?" Yuna finished the bandage and looked at him directly. "Because that's what humans do. We fight our enemies, but we protect the innocent, even if it costs us something." Before Vorath could respond, an announcement came over the ship's speakers. "All senior officers report to the briefing room immediately." Yuna excused herself and headed to the meeting. When she arrived, the other officers were already discussing the situation. Lieutenant Bora had updated the tactical display to show the approaching Valtru fleet in more detail. 230 ships, Bora reported. 3 dreadnoughts, 15 heavy cruisers, and the rest are destroyers and support vessels. They're moving fast. Arrival time is now 5 hours and 20 minutes. Captain Mirai studied the display with a frown. "We're outnumbered 6 to 1. Even with our technological advantage, those aren't good odds." "We should destroy the station and leave," said Lieutenant Somin. She was a tactical specialist known for her aggressive strategies. "Set charges throughout the station. When the Valtru fleet arrives, they'll find nothing but debris. We'll be long gone. And the Valtru will track our quantum signature," Jisoo reminded her. "They'll follow us back to our colonies. We can't risk that." "Then we stay and fight," Somin insisted. "Hit them hard before they can organize. Take out the command ships first. Create chaos in their ranks." Daeho listened to the discussion but said nothing yet. He was thinking about options, weighing each possibility against the risks. Finally he spoke up. "If we run, we endanger our colonies. If we stay and fight conventionally, we'll likely lose. We need a third option." Hyunwoo leaned forward. "What if we use the station's debris? We've already damaged it heavily. If we position our ships within the debris field, we can use it as cover. The Valtru will have trouble targeting us accurately." "A guerrilla battle," Mirai said, understanding immediately. "Hit-and-run tactics. Use the debris to mask our movements." "It's risky," Jisoo pointed out. "We'll be fighting in close quarters with debris all around us." "But it might work." Daeho nodded slowly. "It's our best option. But first I need to make a decision about the station itself. Do we completely destroy it or leave it partially intact?" Somin spoke immediately. "Destroy it completely. Send a message that humans don't leave anything standing." But Dr. Yuna shook her head. "If we destroy it completely, we're no better than the coalition that destroyed Earth. That station has research labs, data archives, maybe even civilians we haven't found yet. Total destruction would make us the monsters the Valtru claim we are." The officers began arguing. Some agreed with Somin that complete destruction would send a powerful message. Others sided with Yuna, believing that humanity needed to show restraint and morality even in war. Daeho held up his hand for silence. "I need to think about this." Meeting dismissed. "Everyone prepare for the coming battle. I'll announce my decision within the hour." The officers left, but Daeho remained in the briefing room alone. The weight of command had never felt heavier. He walked to the window and stared out at the damaged station. Behind him, the door opened and he heard footsteps. "I thought you might need someone to talk to," a voice said. It was Vorath, the elderly Keleth prisoner. He walked slowly into the room, looking around with interest at the human technology. "You should be in medical bay," Daeho said. "Dr. Yuna cleared me to walk around. She's very thorough." Vorath came to stand beside Daeho at the window. "I heard your officers arguing. You face a difficult choice, and how much did you hear?" Enough to understand your dilemma. Revenge versus restraint. Justice versus mercy. Deho glanced at the old alien. And what would you do? Vorath was quiet for a long moment, looking at the stars. My people kept historical records of many species. We were scholars, you see. We studied the rise and fall of civilizations. I was actually a professor of history before the Valtru conquered my world. Did you study humans? Yes, your species fascinated us. In just a few thousand years, you went from primitive tribes to building ships that could cross the galaxy. Your advancement was extraordinary. But what made you truly special wasn't your technology. Then what was it? Your duality. Humans could be fierce warriors when threatened. You fought with courage and determination. But you also showed mercy to defeated enemies. You protected the weak. You created art and music. You laughed and cried. You were complicated in a way that many species are not. Vorath turned to look at Deho directly. The coalition that destroyed Earth was afraid of your power, but I think they were more afraid of your humanity, your ability to be strong and kind at the same time. That combination is rare in the galaxy and very dangerous to those who rule through fear alone. So what should I do? Deho asked. That Valtru fleet is coming. After we fight them, assuming we survive, the galaxy will know humans have returned. Every empire will be watching to see what kind of species we've become. Then show them, not just your strength but your character. Prove that 3,000 years of exile didn't turn you into the monsters your enemies claimed you were. Yes, seek justice for Earth, make those responsible pay. But don't become what they said you would be. Deho thought about Earth, about the billions who died. He thought about General Morrison's final message urging the survivors to remember, and someday make them pay. But Morrison had also told them to survive, to keep humanity alive. What did that mean? Just biological survival? Or surviving as beings worthy of the name human? He walked to the ship's memorial hall, a quiet room where holographic displays showed the names of everyone who died on Earth. Billions of names, scrolling endlessly on the walls. In the center of the room stood a sealed container holding soil from Earth, one of the few physical pieces of the home world that escaped the destruction. Deho placed his hand on the container. The soil inside was from somewhere in Korea, taken by one of his ancestors during the desperate evacuation. He had never seen Earth. None of the current generation had. But this soil connected him to that world, to those people, to that loss. I promise we'll make them pay, Deho whispered to the memorial, but we'll do it the right way. We won't lose ourselves in the process. He returned to the bridge and called his officers back to the briefing room. When they assembled, he made his announcement. We're going to fight the Valtru fleet here, using the station's debris as cover. We'll employ hit-and-run tactics, striking fast and disappearing into the debris field. Our goal is to inflict maximum damage while minimizing our own losses. The officers nodded, accepting this decision. As for the station, Deho continued, we'll destroy the military sections completely. Weapons, shields, docking bays, but we'll leave the residential and civilian areas intact. If there are non-combatants still aboard, they'll survive. We're sending a message, but not the message our enemies expect. Somin looked like she wanted to argue, but remained silent. Humanity is back, Deho said firmly. We're strong enough to hurt our enemies, but we're also controlled enough not to become what they claimed we were. That's the message we're sending. Not just to the Valtru, but to the entire galaxy. Commander Jisoo walked through the detention level one more time, making sure every cell was empty. Her Marines had already evacuated the prisoners, but she wanted to be certain nobody was left behind. As she passed one of the guard stations, something caught her eye. A data terminal was still active, its screen showing Valtru text. She called over one of her Marines who carried a translation device. What does this say? The Marine scanned the screen. It looks like personal logs, Commander. From a Valtru officer who worked here. Can you access them? Give me a moment. The Marine connected a device to the terminal and began downloading the files. Got them. There are hundreds of entries going back years. Jisoo took the data drive and returned to the transport ship. As they flew back to the eternal dawn, she started reading through the logs. Most were boring routine reports about prisoner transfers and guard schedules. But then she found something that made her blood run cold. One entry was dated almost 3,000 years ago. The Valtru officer who wrote it had been much younger then, serving on a warship during what he called the Human Purge. Jisoo read his words describing the attack on Earth. He wrote about the 5 empires working together. The Valtru, The Krillian hegemony, the Dracor Confederation, the Moth Collective, and the Zerum Domain. They had planned it for years, this officer wrote. Humanity was advancing too fast, creating new technologies at an alarming rate. The five empires feared that within a few more centuries, humans would become unstoppable. So they decided to act first. They gathered their fleets in secret and struck without warning. Jisoo felt sick reading the words. This wasn't a war. It was murder. Earth never had a chance to defend itself properly. When she reached the Eternal Dawn, she went straight to Admiral Daeho and showed him the logs. Daeho read them in silence, his face growing harder with each line. Finally, he called for a meeting in the ship's briefing room. Within an hour, the senior officers gathered. Daeho, Jisoo, Captain Mireille, Engineer Hyunwoo, Lieutenant Bora, Dr. Yuna, and several others sat around the table. Daeho activated a holographic display and brought up the Valtru officers' logs. "I want everyone to see this," Daeho said. "This confirms what we suspected but never had proof of. The attack on Earth wasn't random. It was planned. 5 empires decided together that humanity needed to die." The room was silent as they read the logs. Captain Mireille's hands clenched into fists. Hyunwoo looked away, his jaw tight. Even Dr. Yuna, who always preached mercy and restraint, seemed shaken. "There's more," Jisoo said quietly. She brought up another section of the logs. "This officer describes what they did after Earth fell. They turned our planet into a monument, a warning to other species about what happens if you advance too quickly. They made our home into a tourist attraction," Lieutenant Bora said, her voice shaking with anger. "People visit Earth to see the dead planet where the extinct humans once lived." Daeho nodded grimly. "According to these logs, there are regular tours. Ships bring visitors to look at Earth's ruins from orbit. They can't land because the radiation is still too high in many places, but they circle the planet and look at what's left of our cities through telescopes." The holographic display changed to show footage that the Valtru officer had attached to his logs. It was old footage from the actual attack on Earth. The officers watched in horror as alien warships filled Earth's sky. Cities burned, massive explosions lit up the night. Evacuation ships, desperate to escape, were shot down by alien fighters. The footage showed New York City. The tall buildings crumbled as alien weapons struck them. Central Park burned. The ocean rose in massive waves as underwater explosions triggered tsunamis. People ran through the streets looking for shelter that didn't exist. Another clip showed Tokyo. The bright lights went dark one by one as power grids failed. Then came the plasma bombardment, turning the entire city into a crater of melted metal and glass. More clips followed. London, Mumbai, São Paulo, Lagos, Sydney, every major city, every center of human civilization, reduced to ash and rubble in a matter of hours. The worst part was the final transmission. It came from Earth's defense headquarters somewhere deep underground. A human officer, his face covered in blood and dust, spoke into the camera. "This is General Morrison of Earth Defense Command. To any human ships that receive this message, do not return to Earth. I repeat, do not return. The planet is lost. The enemy is too strong. Get as far away as you can. Survive. Remember us. Remember what they did. And someday, someway, make them pay." The transmission cut off as the bunker was hit by a direct strike. The screen went dark. Nobody in the briefing room spoke for a long moment. Some had tears in their eyes. Others stared at the table, unable to process what they had just seen. This wasn't ancient history read from a book. This was real footage of their ancestors dying, of their home world being murdered. Dr. Yuna finally broke the silence. 3,000 years, she said softly. 3,000 years and the wound is still fresh. Because it never healed, Captain Mireille said. How could it? We've spent 30 centuries running and hiding, building our strength in secret, watching our backs every moment. We never had time to grieve properly. Daeho stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the damaged Valtru station drifted in space, still burning in places. Beyond it, stars filled the darkness, the same stars that had looked down on Earth when it died. The Valtru officers' logs mentioned something else, Daeho said. The 5 empires that destroyed Earth still meet regularly. They call themselves the Coalition of Stability. They believe they saved the galaxy from human domination. Saved the galaxy? Lieutenant Bora stood up angrily. They murdered billions of innocent people. To them it was necessary, Jisoo said. They saw us as a threat, a disease that needed to be cut out before it spread. Hyunwoo pulled up a star map. According to the logs, the coalition still maintains military agreements. If one of them is attacked, the others come to help. That's why we need to be careful. If we push too hard, we might face all 5 empires at once. Daeho turned back to face his officers. Then we need to be smart. We strike fast, hit them hard, and disappear before they can coordinate a response. We make them afraid. We make them doubt. We make them regret what they did to Earth. But sir, Dr. Yuna said carefully, we also need to remember who we are. The footage we just watched shows innocent people dying, children, families, people who never hurt anyone. If we become like the coalition, if we start killing innocent aliens just because they belong to enemy species, then what's the point? We'll have become the very thing we hate. The room fell silent again. Yuna's words hit hard because everyone knew she was right. Revenge was necessary, but it couldn't come at the cost of humanity's soul. Captain Murray spoke up. The commander did the right thing today. We rescued those prisoners. That's what humans do. We protect the weak even while fighting the strong. Agreed, Daeho said. We're not here to commit genocide. We're here to make the 5 empires pay for what they did. But we'll do it our way. We'll show the galaxy that humans are better than the monsters who destroyed our home. Jisoo brought up new information on the holographic display. We interrogated High Commander Talvik before transferring him to a secure cell. He confirmed that the coalition still exists. He also told us something interesting. The 5 empires are not as united as they used to be. There are political tensions, economic disputes, territorial disagreements. That's useful, Hyunwoo said. Maybe we can exploit those divisions. Maybe, Daeho agreed. But first we need to deal with an immediate problem. He changed the display to show sensor readings. Lieutenant Bora detected something before we came to this meeting. Tell them what you found. Bora stood up and pointed to the readings. Long-range sensors picked up quantum signatures heading this way. A lot of them. I estimate at least 200 ships. A Valtru fleet? Mirai asked. Yes, that weak distress signal that High Commander Talvik managed to send. Apparently someone received it. A Valtru battle fleet is coming here. They'll arrive in about 6 hours. The officers looked at each other with concern. The human fleet numbered only 37 warships. They had just fought a battle and sustained some damage. They had hundreds of rescued prisoners aboard who needed care, and now a force more than 5 times their size was heading straight for them. We could run, Hyunwoo suggested. Jump to quantum space and get out of here. And lead them straight to our hidden colonies, Jisoo countered. If we run, they'll track our quantum signature. They'll follow us home. Daeho looked at the star map, thinking hard. The weight of command pressed down on him. Every decision he made could mean life or death for thousands of humans. After 3,000 years of hiding, humanity had finally revealed itself. Now they had to prove they were strong enough to survive what came next. The stars twisted and bent as massive ships tore through the fabric of space itself. One by one, they emerged from the quantum tunnel, their dark hulls reflecting no light. The human fleet had arrived at the Andara system, and nobody knew they were there. Admiral Daeho stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, the flagship of humanity's revenge fleet. His eyes were fixed on the view screen showing a massive alien station floating in the distance. The station was huge, covered in weapons and docking bays. Lights blinked across its surface like a small city in space. This was a Valtru military installation, one of their most important bases in this region of the galaxy. Commander Jisoo walked up beside him. She was his second in command, a woman who had proven herself in countless battles during humanity's long exile. Her fingers moved across her datapad, checking the readings from their stealth systems. All ships report their cloaking systems are working perfectly, sir, she said quietly. The Valtru have no idea we're here. Daeho nodded slowly. 3,000 years had passed since Earth burned. 3,000 years since the coalition of 5 alien empires decided that humanity was growing too fast, becoming too dangerous. They had come to Earth with overwhelming force and destroyed everything. Cities turned to ash. Oceans boiled away. Billions died in a single day, but not everyone died. A few million humans escaped on experimental quantum ships, fleeing into the unknown regions of space. For centuries they wandered and hid. They built secret colonies on distant worlds. They raised children who never saw Earth but carried its memory in their hearts. And they prepared. They studied. They built weapons that would make the aliens regret what they had done. Status report from all departments, Daeho ordered. A young officer spoke up from the weapons station. All systems charged and ready, Admiral. The plasma cannons are at full power. Quantum torpedoes are loaded and armed. Another voice came from engineering. It was Hyunwoo, the chief engineer. His face appeared on a small screen. The new shield generators are working better than expected, sir. I've also confirmed that our cyber warfare systems are ready. When you give the word, I can block every communication signal they try to send. Daeho allowed himself a small smile. The Valtru had no idea what was coming. They thought humanity was extinct. A dead species whose ruins they turned into a tourist attraction. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Captain Mirai, status of Ghost Squadron? Daeho asked. A woman's voice came through the communication system. Captain Mirai was in her fighter craft, floating in space with her elite squadron around her. We're ready, Admiral. All 24 fighters are in position. Weapons hot. Just say the word and we'll tear through their defenses. Daeho looked at the station again. Intelligence reports gathered over months told them everything about this place. It coordinated the Valtru Southern Fleet. It held weapons, ships, and supplies. Destroying it would hurt their enemy badly, but more importantly, it would send a message to the entire galaxy. Lieutenant Bora looked up from her console. She was young but brilliant at intelligence work. Sir, I'm picking up normal activity on the station. Shift changes, supply ships docking. They're going about their routine like nothing is wrong. Perfect, Jisoo said. They won't know what hit them. Daeho turned to face his crew. Every person on this bridge had lost something to the aliens. Grandparents, great-grandparents, ancestors going back generations who died when Earth fell. Some crew members had never even seen a real planet with oceans and forests. They were born on ships, lived on ships, and trained for this moment their entire lives. 3,000 years ago, 5 alien empires decided humanity had no right to exist. Daeho said, his voice carrying across the bridge. They came to our home and burned it. They killed our people. They celebrated our extinction. Today we begin to show them their mistake. Today, humanity announces that we survived. We remember, and we're coming for all of them. The crew remained silent, but Daeho could see the fire in their eyes. Every person here understood what this meant. This wasn't just revenge. This was proof that humanity could not be erased from existence. They were survivors, and they had become stronger in exile. All ships, battle stations, Daeho commanded. Prepare to decloak on my mark. Throughout the fleet, crews rushed to their positions. On 37 warships, weapons came online. Shields reached maximum power. Fighter pilots gripped their controls and checked their instruments one last time. This was the moment they had trained for their entire lives. Hyunwoo's voice came through again. Cyber warfare team is ready, Admiral. The moment we decloak, I'll jam every signal they try to send. That station won't get a single message out. Excellent, Daeho replied. Captain Mirai, your squadron will go in first. Target their weapons platforms and shield generators. We need those defenses down fast. Understood, sir, Mirai responded. We'll clear the path. Daeho took a deep breath. After this, there was no going back. The entire galaxy would know that humans had returned. Every alien empire would start looking over their shoulders, wondering when the Ghost Fleet would appear in their space. All ships. This is Admiral Daeho, he said. His voice broadcast to every vessel in the fleet. In a few moments, we strike the first major blow in our campaign. The Valtru will pay for their part in Earth's destruction. But remember, we are not monsters. We fight for justice, not mindless slaughter. We fight to show the galaxy that humanity stands for something greater than revenge. We fight so that what happened to Earth never happens to another species. Are you ready? A chorus of affirmative responses came back from every ship. Daeho looked at the Valtru station one more time. He thought about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests that existed only in old recordings now. He thought about the billions who never got a chance to escape, who died looking up at alien ships filling their sky. For Earth, he whispered, then louder, so everyone could hear. All ships decloak now. Space itself seemed to shudder as 37 warships appeared from nothing. Their stealth systems dropped away, and suddenly the darkness was filled with massive human vessels. Weapons charged and pointed at the station. On the Valtru station, alarms began to scream. Lights flashed red across every level. The aliens ran to their stations in panic, unable to believe what their sensors were showing them. Humans, the extinct species. The dead civilization, they were here and they had brought hell with them. Fire, Daeho ordered calmly. The first human weapons struck the Valtru station like the fist of an angry god. Plasma beams, brilliant and hot, cut through the darkness of space and slammed into shield generators positioned around the station's outer ring. The shields flared bright blue for a moment before collapsing completely. The Valtru had designed their defenses to stop attacks from other alien species. They had never imagined facing human weapons. Captain Mirai led Ghost Squadron through the gap in the defenses. Her fighter was small and fast, dancing between the station's weapon platforms. Behind her, 23 other pilots followed in perfect formation. They had practiced this attack pattern thousands of times in simulations. Now it was real. Ghost 2, take the left platform, Mirai commanded. Ghost 5, you're with me on the power generators. Copy that, Captain, came the responses. Mirai's targeting system locked onto a massive generator jutting from the station's side. She fired her missiles. They streaked forward, leaving trails of blue light, and struck home. The generator exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Half the station's east section went dark. On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Commander Jisoo watched the tactical display. Green dots representing human ships surrounded the red dot of the Valtru station. The battle was going exactly as planned. Target their communications array next, Jisoo ordered. We can't let them call for help. The main cannons of 3 human warships turned toward the station's tall communications tower. They fired together. The tower broke apart, pieces spinning off into space. Inside the Valtru station, chaos ruled. High Commander Talvik ran onto his command deck, his scales turning pale with shock. He was a veteran of many battles, but he had never seen anything like this. His screens showed ship designs he didn't recognize, using weapons he had never encountered. Report, Talvik shouted at his officers. Sir, we're under attack by unknown forces, one officer stammered. Our shields are down. Communications are being jammed. We can't send a distress signal. Who is attacking us? The Krillian hegemony? The Dracor Confederation? Another officer looked up from his station, his face showing pure terror. Sir, the computer has identified the ship designs. They match old records from the Earth archives. These are human ships. The command deck went silent. Every Valtru officer stared at their commander. Talvik felt his blood run cold. Humans. The species they had destroyed 3,000 years ago. The extinct civilization they used as an example of what happened to species that grew too powerful too fast. That's impossible, Talvik said quietly. We killed them all. Apparently not, sir. Outside, the battle continued. Human warships surrounded the station, their weapons firing in coordinated strikes. Each shot was precise, targeting specific systems. The Valtru tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't penetrate the human shields. The technology gap was enormous. Sir, enemy fighters are approaching our docking bays, a Valtru weapons officer reported. Talvik watched helplessly as human fighters flew through the station's defenses like they weren't even there. This wasn't a battle. It was an execution. On her fighter, Mirai spotted something on her scanner. She frowned and opened a channel to the Eternal Dawn. Admiral Deho, I'm picking up unusual readings from the lower levels of the station. It looks like detention cells. Deho leaned forward on his command chair. Detention cells? Are there prisoners? Checking now, sir. Mirai flew closer, her scanner analyzing the station's interior. Confirmed. I'm reading about 300 life signs in what appears to be a prison level. Multiple species, not Valtru. Jisoo looked at Deho. It could be a trap, sir. Or it could be innocent people, Deho replied. He thought for a moment. The original plan was to destroy the station completely, once they stripped it of useful intelligence. But if there were prisoners down there, hundreds of beings from other species, he couldn't just leave them to die. All ships continue the assault but hold fire on the lower sections. Deho ordered. Commander Jisoo, prepare a boarding team. We're going to get those prisoners out. Jisoo nodded and immediately started organizing the rescue operation. She selected her best Marines and had them prepare for insertion. This would make the mission more complicated and dangerous, but it was the right thing to do. Lieutenant Bora piloted a small reconnaissance ship closer to the station. She was coordinating the rescue effort, mapping out the safest path for the boarding team. Her scanners showed her the layout of the prison level. The cells were packed with beings from different species, all trapped behind energy barriers. I have a clear route to the detention level, Bora reported. Sending coordinates now. A human transport ship broke away from the main fleet and headed for a damaged docking bay on the station's lower section. Inside, 20 Marines led by Commander Jisoo checked their weapons and armor. They wore black combat suits with advanced shields and carried plasma rifles that could cut through Valtru armor like paper. The transport ship docked hard. The doors opened and the Marines rushed out into the station. They moved through corridors filled with smoke and flickering lights. The station's automated defenses tried to stop them, but Hyunwoo's cyber warfare team disabled each weapon system before it could fire. They reached the detention level quickly. The doors were locked, but a Marine placed a charge on them. The explosion blew the doors inward. Jisoo and her team entered a large room filled with cells. Inside those cells, hundreds of prisoners looked up in surprise and fear. Most of them were from a species Jisoo didn't recognize. They had gray skin and large eyes, wearing tattered clothes. One of them, an old male, stepped forward to the energy barrier of his cell. "Who are you?" he asked in a translator-modified voice. "We're humans," Jisoo replied. "We're getting you out of here." The old prisoner's eyes went wide. "Humans? But you're supposed to be extinct." "Not quite," Jisoo said with a small smile. She turned to her Marines. "Get these barriers down. We're taking everyone with us." Meanwhile, the battle outside continued. Ghost Squadron had disabled most of the station's weapons. The few Valtru fighters that launched were quickly destroyed by human pilots with superior ships and training. The station was helpless now, floating dead in space with fires burning across multiple sections. On the Valtru command deck, High Commander Talvik made one last attempt to send a distress signal. He manually overrode the communication system and tried to punch through the human jamming. For just a moment, a weak signal got through before Hyunwoo's team blocked it again. "Did it work?" Talvik asked desperately. "Unknown, sir. The signal was weak. It might not have reached anyone." Talvik slumped in his chair. His station was destroyed. His fleet was scattered. And the humans, the supposedly extinct humans, had done it all in less than an hour. Back on the detention level, the prisoners were being led to the transport ships. The old prisoner walked beside Commander Jisoo. "Why are you saving us?" he asked. "You clearly want revenge on the Valtru. Why risk your mission to rescue prisoners?" Jisoo looked at him. "Because we're still human. We remember what it means to protect the innocent, even while we're fighting our enemies." The old prisoner nodded slowly, understanding something important about these returned humans. As the last prisoners boarded the transport, Jisoo took one final look at the Valtru station. It was broken and burning, a monument to human fury. But the rescue mission showed something else. Humanity hadn't just survived. They had kept their soul intact. "All personnel extracted," Jisoo reported to Admiral Daeho, returning to the fleet. "Good work, Commander," Daeho replied. "Now let's finish this."